Hello and welcome to StudyIQ. In this lecture, we will be discussing should auto fuels come under the GST. So our topic for discussion today is should auto fuel come under GST. This has become an important current affair because recently we have seen there is an increase in the prices of fuels. So this increase in the prices of fuels has led to tension and this has increased the cost of transportation. So this rising oil prices has led to tensions all over the country and the central government is trying to bring a holistic solution for this issue. So under the holistic solution for increase in the prices of the fuels, the Petroleum Minister Dharmendra Pradhan suggested that the Union government is trying to consider to bring petrol and diesel under the GST regime in order to control the prices or to put a check on the prices of the fuels. After the Petroleum Minister suggested this, the Union Transport Minister Nitin Gadkari also supported this. The Chief Economic Advisor Aravind Subramaniam is also in a view that petroleum products like the diesel and the petrol should come under the GST regime. So, in this lecture, let us analyze what are the advantages and what are the shortcomings if petrol and diesel comes under the GST. GST was rolled out in the country in last July. So under the GST regime, a few things are excluded. So what are the few things that are excluded under the GST regime? Petroleum products, alcohol, real estate, power, all these are excluded. So these items were excluded under the GST regime, which means that GST is not applicable to these products. So these products have certain different taxation. So the taxation of these products are different from that of the GST. So here our topic for discussion is petroleum products. So now let us see what is the kind of taxation at present for the petroleum products. So petroleum products like petrol, diesel, crude and natural gas. So these products, currently the center as well as the state levy taxes on these products. So there is a center tax and also state tax. So the center and the state levy taxes on these products. The center levies excise duty. So the center is levying excise duty on these products, and when it comes to states, the states charges VAT or the value added tax. The state levies value added tax and the center excise duty. And on addition to the excise duty and the VAT, there are dealer commissions. So dealer commission are also included. So all this will culminate to inflating the prices of these products. So there is a center tax, there is a state tax and dealer commissions are also added. And when this product reaches the retailer or when the consumers buy from the retailers, the prices are highly inflated, leading to increased prices of these products. So coming to GST, under GST we know that there is a single tax rate. So the tax rate is single and it can be either 18% or 28%. So what does this single tax rate mean? We have seen in the papers that there is an increase in the fuel prices, but you must have noted that in different states or when it comes to different cities, the prices of the fuels are different in different cities. We have seen in the papers that Mumbai had the recorded highest rate for the fuel. In Mumbai, the rate was 86.24 rupees for the petrol last week. In Chennai, it was 81.43. So Chennai, it was 81.43. In Kolkata, it was 81.04. And in Delhi, it was 78.43. So you will see that in different cities, in Mumbai, it was a different rate. In Chennai, it is different. In Kolkata, it is different. And in Delhi also, the price is different. Why is this? This is because we have already seen the union levies a tax and also state levies a tax. Union levies excise duties and states VAT. So the VAT of the state or the value added tax in different states will be different, and this is the reason in many cities or in different states the prices of the fuel is different. So the difference in the value added tax in the states has led to different prices for fuel in different cities or in different states. And if the fuel comes under the GST, what will happen? There is a single rate all throughout the country, which means that the price of the fuel all throughout the country will be the same. And one more thing you should remember about the GST. If this fuel is brought under the GST, there will not be state VAT and there will not be central excise duties. So this will lead to reduction in the prices of the fuels. One thing is uniformity throughout the country, which means the prices of fuel all throughout the country will be the same. That is uniformity. And secondly, lowering the price because of cancellation of the state VAT as well as the central excise duty. There will be only GST, and which will be either 18% or 28%, which will lead to reduction in the prices of the fuel in the country. Now let us see what are the advantages if fuel is brought under the GST. So what are the advantages? Firstly, we have seen that there will be uniformity all throughout the country because the rate of GST is same all throughout the country. So it will lead to uniformity of prices in the country. And secondly, this will lower the prices of the auto fuels. We have seen how this will lower the prices of the auto fuels. Thirdly, this will lower the political heat of the government. This will lower political heat. Why? Because increased prices of fuel has caused tensions all throughout the country and it has become a political burden for the government also. Fourthly and importantly, if auto fuels are brought under the GST, we said that the prices of the fuels will come down and this will lead to a reduction in the transport cost. So this will lead to reduction in transport cost. And when we say transport cost, you must understand that the transport cost can be either for the personal use or for the industries. So personal use, of course, a person would save if he can save money on transportation. And when it comes to industry, it has a macroeconomic perspective. What is that macroeconomic perspective? So when the transportation cost of the industries reduces, this will lead to increased supply in the economy, or it will lead to increase in the production in the economy. So reduction in the transportation cost will lead to increased production. So increased production in the economy will lead to increased competitiveness, and also this will lead to increase in the employment rate in the economy. So as the transportation cost decreases, there will be more production in the economy. This more production will give a competitive edge to the industries, which will add on to the rate of employment generation in the economy. To understand this in a better manner, let us go back to our inflation module. That is, in inflation, we have discussed some concept called cost push inflation. What is cost push inflation? We have already seen this, but for your understanding of this topic, I'll briefly explain what is cost push inflation. Cost push inflation means the increase in the prices of commodities in the market because of increase in the cost of production. So when cost of production in the economy increases, this will lead to increase in prices of commodities in the market. And we have seen how we can represent cost push inflation in a graph. Let us quickly see. Let us take price P in the y-axis and quantity Q in the x-axis. Demand curve is a downward sloping curve and supply curve upward sloping supply curve. So this point where the demand curve and the supply curve meets is called equilibrium. So this is the equilibrium point. So at the equilibrium point, P is the price and quantity demanded is Q. So P price and quantity demanded Q. What happens during cost push inflation? The prices of the commodities increases because there is an increase in the cost of production. So this will lead to a reduced supply or reduction in the production in the economy. So cost push inflation means the supply in the economy will reduce. So when supply in the economy reduces, the supply curve shift to the left. So supply curve, here we will see there is a shift in the supply curve and it has shifted leftwards. And when the supply curve here shifted to the left, what has happened? A new equilibrium point has been created, E1. So at new equilibrium point E1, price is P1 and you will see quantity is Q1. If you closely observe this graph, you will understand that in this graph the price has increased. The price has increased, also the quantity has reduced. What does this mean? There is inflation in the economy because price has increased, and there is lesser production in the economy. Here you will see the quantity has reduced from Q to Q1. So this is what exactly happens during a cost push inflation. Production will come down. So if the prices of auto fuels are high, what will happen? The transportation cost is more. So when the transportation cost is more, the prices of the commodities will increase. Also there will be reduced production in the economy, which will lead to cost push inflation. So if the prices of auto fuels are under control, this will lead to reduction in the inflation in the economy, especially the cost push inflation. Also, if the auto fuels are brought under the GST, this will promote the idea of single nation, single tax. The idea of GST itself is single nation and single tax. The firms have certain disadvantage because these products are excluded from the GST. So, because these products are excluded from the GST, it has caused some disadvantage for the firms. So what are the disadvantages? The disadvantages are that they cannot set off the input costs like the transportation, logistics, services, etc. Or either they cannot claim for input tax credit. So this disadvantages also will be solved if these products are under the GST. So these are the advantages associated with bringing of auto fuels under the GST regime. But there is also another side for this issue. Let us see what are the disadvantages or what are the limitations if auto fuels are brought under the GST regime. First of all, this will lead to revenue loss both for the center as well as for the states. Revenue loss. How? We have seen at present how these auto fuels are taxed. We have seen that the center levies excise duty and the states levy VAT. So this auto fuels are revenue earners for both center as well as the states. In case of the center, this auto fuels put the center in a better financial position or fiscal position. So it provides better fiscal position for the center. And in case of states also, this provide huge revenue. If we take an example Maharashtra. In the state of Maharashtra, it is estimated that around 22,000 crore is generated as tax revenue from this auto fuels. So this is case of Maharashtra. So it is the same with other states also. For states, this is a huge revenue earner. So if auto fuels are brought under GST, the states as well as the center will have to bear a revenue loss. So the decision of whether auto fuels should come under the GST or not will be dependent on the revenue considerations of the center as well as the states. So you must understand the revenue considerations are important. And who is going to make a decision whether this should come under the GST or not? The GST Council will make the decision. So we have already seen what is a GST Council, what is the composition, what is the purpose, etc. But to give you an understanding, I'll quickly explain what is a GST Council. GST Council is a constitutional body under the Article 279A of the Constitution. So it is a constitutional body. This is very important. You should remember that. The purpose of the GST Council is to give recommendations to the union as well as the states regarding the GST. So recommendations to union and states. So it is obvious that the GST Council can give recommendation regarding whether auto fuels should come under the GST regime or not. So this is the authority of the GST Council to give recommendation. And the GST Council is headed by the Union Finance Minister. So he is the chairman of the council. Who are the other members of the GST Council? The Union Minister of State, who is in charge of the revenue, is another member. So Minister of State in charge of revenue, he is the second member. So Union Finance Minister and the Minister of State in charge of revenue. These two people are the representatives from the center. And who are the representatives from the state? When it comes to states, every state and union territories with legislative assembly. So union territories with legislative assembly and all the states have one representative each. So mostly this representative will be the finance minister of the particular state. The decision of the council will be taken on the basis of the majority. So decision will be taken by the majority. The union has 1/3 weightage and the states have 2/3 weightage. So this is the GST Council. So coming back to our topic, if suppose the GST Council gives recommendations for the inclusion of auto fuels under the GST, what will happen? So there is again one more thing you should remember. The states have still an autonomy to tax the auto fuels. How? Even if it comes under GST, states have one more provision. That is, they can levy an additional tax or a top-up tax. State can charge additional tax or top up tax. This can be varied according to different states. So this additional tax can be, for example, in the form of sin tax. What is sin tax? Sin tax is a tax which is levied on goods and services which are considered to be harmful. For example, cigarettes or alcohol. They are considered to be harmful, and therefore in order to reduce their consumption, the government will charge a sin tax. So this is a surcharge. Surcharge means tax on tax. So sin tax is a type of surcharge. So even if the auto fuels are included under the GST, states still have an option to charge surcharge or an additional taxes. So if alcohol and tobacco etc., they are considered to be sinful because or harmful because they are harmful for the health. So in case of auto fuels, the states can say that this will add on to the air pollution or vehicle pollution. So that can be one reason, and with that reason states can impose a surcharge, for example a sin tax. So if states charge sin tax or a surcharge on auto fuels, what will happen? Again, the prices of the auto fuels will aggravate or increase. So there will be no effect. These fuels are included under the GST. And when it comes to the center, we already said that for the center also this is a huge revenue loss because they will not be getting the excise duty on the auto fuels. So again, one more thing is, not only because the government or the center will lose its excise duty, one more thing you should remember is there is a commitment of the center. The commitment of the center under the GST is that the center will compensate states for any loss because of implementation of GST for the initial 5 years. So the center has promised the states that for the initial 5 years after the GST is rolled out, the center will compensate the states. So this compensation also the center needs to provide to the states, and this amount will be very huge. So this is going to be a huge fiscal burden for the central government.